friends, the session is dedicated to the pillar of any environmentally stable system, that is sustainable development. The session discusses the priority area in Indian context. It discusses India's sync with the sustainable development goals and further tables the solution through some of the indigenous examples and puts forward a case study of sustainable, intelligent and prosperous living. The session dwells upon the ecological footprint, that is, the ecological services that a given population requires to produce the natural resources it consumes and to assimilate waste and carbon emissions generated, whereas the biocapacity is the productivity of the planet's ecological assets to generate its natural resources and absorb the waste and carbon emissions generated. Today, the Earth's human population is about 7.62 billion and the ecological footprint of the planet is so high that it will take nearly 1.7 Earths to fulfill the demand of this population. According to the National Footprint Account 2014, India has an ecological footprint of 1.12 global hectares per person and a biocapacity of 0.45 global hectare per person, which means it is a biocapacity debtor or an ecological deficit country, with there being a 148% more demand than supply on its natural resources. The priority area in Indian context, such as water, air, soil, agriculture, forestry and conservation of nature and natural resources are discussed. Rivers that are being discussed are rivers of sorrow, not because of natural causes like the floods, but because they have become miserable rivers due to our misdeeds. After conducting a detailed survey and sampling of 445 rivers across the country, the Central Pollution Control Board realized the gravity of the situation. The very absence of the aquatic life from such spots is an evidence enough that there is hardly any oxygen in the water there. The session furthers on to the IUCN Red List of the threatened species established in 1964. The International Union for Conservation of Nature's Red List of Threatened Species has evolved to become the world's most comprehensive information resource on the global conservation status of animal, fungi and plant species. The IUCN Red List is a critical indicator of the health of the world's biodiversity. Far more than a list of species and their status, it is a powerful tool to inform and catalyze action for biodiversity conservation and policy change. Critical to protecting the natural resources we need to survive. The next majority area is then discussed, that is air. Across India, construction dust, exhaust fumes and trucks from cars, coal plant and factory emissions, diesel generators, stubble burning in the fields, garbage fires and the inefficient chulhas are among others which have made air pollution nothing short of a public emergency. The session then touches its base with the focal theme, which is sustainable development. Our common future, also known as the Brundtland Report in recognition of the former Norwegian Prime Minister Gro Harlem Brundtland, the World Commission on Environment and Development, published in 1987 by the United Nations. Its targets were multilateralism and interdependence of nations in the search for a sustainable development path. The report sought to recapture the spirit of the Stockholm Conference, which had introduced environmental concerns to the formal political development sphere. Our common future placed environmental issues firmly on the political agenda. It aimed to discuss the environment and development as one single issue. The Sustainable Development Goals are a global agenda adopted by countries in 2015 with a vision of ending poverty, protecting the planet, and ensuring that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. The 17 Sustainable Development Goals and 169 targets are a part of what is known as the 2030 Agenda. The goals and targets are universal, meaning they apply to all countries around the world and not just poor countries. Reaching the goal requires actions on all fronts by governments, businesses, civil society, and people everywhere. All have a role to play. The goals are meant to stimulate action in the five areas of critical importance, which are people, planet, prosperity, peace, and partnership. The people's goal range from goal 1 to 7. The prosperity goal further sequences from goal 8 to 12. The three planet goals are from 13 to 15. The peace and justice goal is number 16, whereas goal number 17 aims at the partnership goal. India played a prominent role in the formulation of United Nations Sustainable Development Agenda 2030. And much of the country's national development agenda is mirrored in the Sustainable Development Goals. The progress of the world to meet the SDGs largely depends on India's progress. However, with 17 goals, 169 targets and 306 national indicators, the SDGs might be difficult to grasp and understand, and defining and measuring success poses a challenge. The discussion then moves to the Human Development Index as one of the indicators of achieving the SDGs. India inched one spot to rank 129th out of 189 countries on the 2019 Human Development Index released by the United Nations Development Programme. Inequality and deprivation continue to be high in the country. Another criteria picked up is the Environmental Performance Index. EPI is a method of quantifying and numerically marking the environmental performance of a state's policies. This index was developed from the Pilot Environmental Performance Index, while countries around the world have been considering how to implement and measure success against the goals. Niti Aayog has taken the lead by bringing out the SDG India Index baseline report of 2018 and showing how SDGs are measured in India. The Niti Aayog released the baseline report of the Sustainable Development Goals India Index, which comprehensively documents the progress made by India's states and union territories towards implementing the 2030 Sustainable Development Goal targets. The SDG Index is a powerful tool which offers excellent possibilities for the states and union territories to identify priority areas which demand action, facilitate peer learning, highlight data gaps, and promote healthy competition to coordinate all the SDG efforts at the national and subnational levels. Niti Aayog acts as the nodal institution. At the same time, owing to the federal structure of the country, the states and union territories play a significant role in ensuring the success of Sustainable Development Goal agenda. The report measures and progress achieved and distance to covered by states and union territories in their journey towards meeting the targets using the SDG India Index. India ranks 115 out of 162 nations as per the 2019 report. The session also discusses the SDG dashboard that highlights the current assessment on all the 17 goals. The different color coding is used to represent the status of the different goals. The indigenous solutions are furthered in the session, ranging from Cochin International Airport, which has more than 46,000 solar panels tapping the power of the bright sunlight and converting it into energy. Cochin is now the first airport in the world to run completely on solar power. Another example being the budget carrier SpiceJet, which is India's first ever biojet fuel flight. The session then discusses a case study of Kendrapada, a district of Odisha. Odisha is one state which is most vulnerable to climate change, mainly for two reasons. One, its high natural setting, and the second is the high incidence of poverty where most of the people have very little capacity to cope with the climate extremes and variability. Kendrapada district, a part of coastal Odisha, is characterized by fragile environment, prone to flood and cyclone, low and highly variable rainfall, high water deficiency, frequent rainfall failure, and of late, it is also emerging as a drought-prone district. This is one of the worst cyclone-affected districts in Odisha. The farmers here practiced integrated fish farming for sustainable livelihood. Let's all pledge to adopt a sustainable lifestyle.